Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the Parental Playbook Podcast. And I am joined this morning by Garrison G Money Manor, the man from North Gwinnett High School, who is an incredible two-sport athlete, especially in high school where he played football, got a state championship there with North Gwinnett, the Bulldogs there, and also had some huge success as an all-county and all-state honorable mention player in lacrosse. But more importantly, he is an incredible human being and was a four-year member of the North Gwinnett Honor Roll. Garrison, what a pleasure to welcome you this morning. So good to see you all grown up now.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, indeed, man. It was about 6 or 7 years ago we met. We were doing a little a little role play there. I was giving you a hard time. I went back and looked at that video.
Yeah.
I was giving you a hard time. We were doing some media training. And let me ask you this. Do you think people understand how much scrutiny college athletes are under?
Yeah. So I really don't think that they do. I mean, I talk about this with my friends all the time. Like, people on ESPN, broadcasts and stuff, they love to bash on, little 20-year-old kids and stuff, but it's tough when you haven't been in that position. So I do like to hear from like the athletes that, did play professionally, did play collegiately, like, kind of give their perspective. So I do feel like people do like to, bash on the kids a lot, but it is what it is.
Yeah, man, it is tough. You had some talented guys that played with you, North Gwinnett, and you guys, I remember, I think that whole offense like went Power Five. I mean, you guys.
Yeah, I think on our state championship team, we had like 20 or so D1 commits on offense and defense. It was a lot. Probably more, honestly. Yeah.
Incredible. You guys were fun to watch. But let's get right into this thing, man. I focus on parental communication and how parents can more effectively communicate with their high school and college age kids, man. We see so much pressure that young people are under right now. And I don't think parents really understand because they're so busy, right? They've got life going on. They've got college tuition they might be paying for. They've got another child they're raising. Nobody's home at 5:30 for dinner together anymore. We eat in the drive-through lane. Our families are just constantly being, pecked away at by the societal pressures. But tell me a little bit about your decision, first of all, to go to Harvard after you had a lot of good looks from other Division I schools. You got a lot of attention from the recruiting process. Talk to me about the parental conversations you had with your parents and why it meant so much to you to go to Harvard.
Yeah, so from the beginning, my parents were very supportive from a young age. I mean, I never really planned on going to an Ivy League school. I always wanted to go, SEC or Big Ten or something. So, as I grew up, things became more realistic. I was getting a lot more offers from attention from like, smaller D1 schools and Ivy League schools. My parents were, always very supportive. So when it came down to decision time, the summer after my junior year, I came down to Harvard, Yale, and Columbia for football. I decided to, not play lacrosse, just wasn't for me, collegiately. So my parents were real supportive of that decision. First of all, just focusing on football, recruiting wise. And then after taking visits and, going over the place and everything, it's just really hard to say no to Harvard. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. So, I mean, my parents, they really had they were going to support wherever I went. So I was, very blessed and fortunate to have that support system. But yeah, I mean, there was no backlash or anything. We would have little talks here and there, but they always, wanted me to make my own decision. So yeah, very supportive.
Right. So let me ask you this though. Think about that position now and your thought process and throw NIL into the mix. So let's say University of Tulsa is offering you, $100,000 or, Troy or one of these schools in Alabama comes up with, $250K. Now, can you imagine how much different that conversation is going to be with your parents?
Yeah, 100%.
The pressure.
I can't, being that young, being offered that much money, it's a lot of responsibility. So can't imagine.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I think it's going to have some we're already seeing the huge impact on college sports. Now, let's talk a little bit about the pressures of the academic rigors of Harvard University, first of all, and then combining it with the time crunch that's put on you by being on the football team.
Yeah, so on the football team up there, there was maybe 3 or 4 pre-med athletes on the team. But in my class, I think I was the only one. I think when I came in, there was a couple more, but, over the years, people, chose different majors and whatnot. But So yeah, definitely very tough. Off season, 6 a.m.s every day. In season, you're spending, 2 a days, games, film, practice, lifts. It's a lot. So it was definitely tough to balance. So for my first 3 years, freshman year, played football, everything. Sophomore year was COVID, so we were actually
Right.
remote. Junior year, regular year, and then I actually took a gap year after my junior year. So I was home for a little while. And then I was back in Boston, working with a doctor out there and everything. And then this past year during my senior year, I didn't even play because I really just had it was a lot. I really wanted to keep my grades right. I was thinking long term and just it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
So I only played my first 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, because I remember my last game and wearing my wearing my equipment back to my
Yeah.
dorm room, coach knocking on my door saying, Mark, I'm gonna need your equipment. But I was done,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, oh my God, it's over. How did you get to that realization? You said you were thinking long term. Did your parents play any role in helping you make that decision?
Not really. I mean,
Mhm.
again, they were just kind of real supportive. So when I took my gap year, they were a little upset because they didn't want me to, lose track of what I had going on. But again, they were very supportive. I made sure I kept my head on straight. I was working, I was doing things I needed to do, to make sure, I could get back into school and finish and, do things the right way. So
Mhm.
again, very supportive. Sometimes they do like to chime in, how parents do, but I think that they were always, had the right intentions. So I was,
Yeah.
again, very blessed and fortunate to, make it through and then, continue on. So
Right,
yeah.
right. So the money question is what should parents be saying? Like what should they say versus what should they not say?
Yeah. My parents they were tough on me, but they always say when you get older, you'll see like I'm just being tough on you. So they say a lot of things from their own perspective, but they always like to think like you're in your own shoes. You got to walk the path you want to walk. But this is like just my suggestion. So I think you should do. So obviously when I was younger, they were definitely, more stern, but as I grew up, they definitely understood like, this is my decision to do these types of things, but we trust you to make the right decisions. And if you were to like, veer off the path, like they would 100% confident they would, like steer me back on straight. So again, very supportive.
Yeah. Yeah, you were blessed in that regard to have some parents that are involved, understanding and listening. I teach a course on parental communication, and one of the modules focuses on listening and hearing what your young man or young lady is telling you. And I don't think parents listen well enough, present company included. But tell me a little bit more about what they shouldn't say, about things that can really upset a young man or young lady while you're in the midst of 6 a.m. 2 days, plus, you got a biology test coming up at 11 a.m. and, you haven't gotten the rest you need and, you
Mhm.
feel like you're not ready. What should parents not say?
I think when you get to college and you're in that lifestyle, one thing that I kind of felt was crucial was like they kind of understood that like I knew what I needed to do, so like I don't kind of need to be like told and reminded like keep on reminding me that I have these many things to do. This is what I need to be doing. This is how I'm supposed to be doing it. So I kind of like knew what I needed to do, and they know that I know what I needed to do. So like just hearing them if they were to keep reminding me and being on me, that kind of like for me personally, that kind of want to like stress me out even more. So that's something that I feel like that they did a good job of not like, adding to the stress of everything that we have going on. So not, constantly reminding me this, that, and the third, but they were always good on, just kind of calling just to check in. I talked to my mom multiple times a week, same with my dad, they would like to call just to like check in first most. And then I ask, how is everything? But they were never really like, on my back on trying to
Yeah.
add more stress to what I had going on.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, adding more stress, right?
Mhm.
You don't need any more. People say college is supposed to be fun, but with athletics and academics, there is a lot of stress. There is a lot
Yeah,
of pressure. There's pressure to perform. Gee, can you imagine the pressure now with NIL? You gotta put somebody gives you $500,000, and you're 19,
crazy. Yeah, yeah,
right? The pressure there, it's gotta be so immense that it's going to be difficult for moms and dads to wrap their head around it, don't you think?
yeah, 100%. So much money. Yeah.
And that's what I don't think people realize. Any regrets going to Harvard? I know that Harvard Yale game is incredible. Just the atmosphere. Dr. Shelton and I have a neighbor, one of our good friends, who was the captain on the Harvard football team, Barry Ford. He's a lot older than you.
Okay.
And he was the captain way back in the 80s, the 80s. But he used to tell us about that Harvard Yale game and the rivalry there and the tradition and the circumstance around it. Kind of describe that for us, if you would.
Yeah, so Harvard Yale, it's huge, every sport, but especially football, just because the history that goes along with it. So every day throughout the season, like we talk about the other teams, but like in everyone's mind, it's Harvard Yale, Harvard Yale, Harvard Yale. In the off season, we're talking about Harvard Yale. During the summer, we're talking about Harvard Yale. So it's definitely the biggest game. Being in that atmosphere is it's crazy. That's definitely like the most packed out game. There's tailgates. There's most. We're smaller, so like the games aren't always that big, but the first home game is always pretty big, but Harvard Yale is always like it's huge. They shut down New Haven and Cambridge, just people all over the place. It's definitely cool to experience and see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I just feel like I'm so impressed with you, your ability to make decisions, your maturity, thinking long term. A lot of people, can't see the forest through the trees. A lot of young guys, including me when I was your age, right? I did, my plan A, B, and C was to play pro football, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I realized that everybody at the college level could play, right, I was like, oh my goodness, how do you stand out among all these beasts? And so,
Mm-hmm.
when the realization sets in that, you're going to have to grow up and become an adult, it can be a painful transition. And the transitions are what I like to focus on with parents. So as you're making this transition now, what are you focusing on?
So I'm definitely focused on just like my next steps. So as we talked earlier, getting a master's, going on to med school. So that was kind of always my plan, but I knew going to a school like Harvard, like I knew going into it that I had to be thinking long term. I knew this was a school I was choosing, not just for football, but also for academics and, getting that degree so that I can, continue on. So it's always been on my mind. I think that's also going back to just kind of how I was raised. My parents would always, tell me, chess, not checkers, thinking long term, everything like that. So it's always been kind of on my mind, especially when I, ended up deciding not to play my senior year. That was kind of what I was thinking. I was had a lot going on. I just got done pledging. When football was going, my grades were kind of slipping, so I kind of just had to make cuts where I needed to make cuts, and then unfortunately ended up being football. But I think it was the right decision in the long run.
Yeah, pledging can definitely take a
Yeah,
lot of your time.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely cuts into your study time. Well,
yeah.
Garrison, hey man, for young men that are following you and young women too, what is your best advice for people that may be heading off to college this fall or next year? If you could give them a few words of advice, what would it be?
I would definitely say. I was going to say begin with the end in mind, but I know a lot of people go into college having no idea what they want to do. I would just say kind of don't stress yourself out. I know it's a lot going on, whether you play sports or not. It's a lot, especially if everything we have going on now today. It's a lot going on. So I think that just focusing on your priorities and make sure you have your priorities in order, no matter what you're doing, whether you're partying and stuff, being a regular college kid, just always know like where home is. Like always know, okay, I have an exam. I actually got to lock in for the next couple of days. Like you got to always have a strong base, or
Mm,
about that, then you'll get lost, and then it's
yeah,
tough with everything going on today.
awesome. And for the parents of those young men and women, what kind of advice would you have for them when it comes to parental support, parental communication?
Yeah, kind of going back to what we said earlier, like just always be that support system. Definitely don't add to the stress, but I think it is good to be checking in, mentally, emotionally, academically, just checking in, but don't hover and be a little, helicopter and
Yeah.
add stress because that's definitely the worst thing. Again, like we're growing up too, like we understand our responsibilities, what we need to be doing. So just kind of adding stress to everything we got going on, it's I don't think it's good, but
Yeah.
that's just my opinion.
Awesome. Awesome. Garrison Manor, KA Psi is an awesome fraternity, man. But I kind of thought you had Q written all over
My roommate is actually Q. He crossed the stream right
it.
before me. So yeah, yeah.
All
So
right. Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on all your success, man. We'll continue to follow you. Please stay in touch with us here at the Parental Playbook, man. We would always love to have you on. We want to hear about your continued success and the great heights that you are soaring to, man. So we are so proud of you as a village, man. And yeah, I apologize for giving you a hard time way back when you were still a high
nah, it's all good. It's all good.
Garrison Manor, ladies and gentlemen, proud graduate of Harvard University and on his way to some big things. Remember the name. Garrison, what a pleasure.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my friend. Okay.